imagined a land in a faraway place where the caravan camels roam, where you wander among every culture and tongue. It's chaotic, but hey, it's home. And I think that's a good way to get sued, so we're going to stop those lyrics right now and increase this exposure here. Hey everybody, this is Charles, and I'm not going to do a tutorial right now. I'm going to talk to you. This is going to be more travel vlog stuff because, as many of you know, I took a huge trip back in December, and I haven't really talked about it. I haven't really shared that much from the trip aside from what I posted on like Instagram and social media. So now that we're not going to say what we're in because, you know, they flag and suppress the videos where you mention what day and age we're in. It basically means I have more free time. More specifically, my video editor has more free time. Thanks, Kath. Let's go ahead and start getting this vlog out and talk about my trip to Africa. And actually a whole bunch of other countries during that entire time period. But specifically, we're going to talk about Africa because this video is all about day one. So where did this trip come from? Where did the idea for this trip come from? Why did I choose Africa and Egypt and all the other places I went to? Like, let's just go ahead and start from the beginning. A few months prior to this trip, I was at a seminar, a Tony Robbins seminar. It was Unleash the Power Within down in Miami, Florida. And it was truly life-changing. I can say that everybody, what they talk about those seminars, it's the truth. I really felt like it was a huge defining moment in my life, and it really opened up the doors for things that I was feeling inside that I wanted to change my life afterwards. And so one of my main breakthroughs was simply, I was tired of always just pursuing the next job, pursuing the next income and revenue stream. I wanted to switch things up in my life and go to more of a fulfillment phase of life instead of just an accomplishment phase of life. Tony Robbins actually has a quote where he says, "Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure." And that's one of the things that really hit home for me during that seminar. It really resonated with me during that seminar. And that's why when I was on my way home, before I even landed back in my area, I made a decision that I was going to take a trip. I was going to go somewhere. I was going to put a stamp in my passport, and it was going to be purely a vacation. Because with me, all of my trips for years, I mean years, even when I was with a partner, every trip I've ever done had always been somehow, some way work related. It was never a pure just, I want to experience something and I'm gonna go do it. And that's why I decided I was gonna make that change starting that next month, December. And as many of you saw on social media, I put feelers out there kind of saying, hey, where's a great place to travel in December? Because obviously it's winter and summer in different areas. I was looking all over the world because I really wanted to make this a big, memorable trip. I was looking at Norway, Australia, South America, like all over the place. So why did I decide on Egypt and the other countries? Why did that happen? Well, to be honest with you, it happened because it was a subtle suggestion and a little bit of an invitation. I had met a friend at that Tony Robbins event, and we were seatmates for a couple days, and so we obviously became friends on social media, and she saw my posts, and she was already traveling around the world, so she said very lightheartedly, hey, if I happen to be in Egypt around this time, to hit her up because she'd be passing through there. And in my brain, I was just like, I kind of thought about Egypt, the Great Pyramids. That'd be awesome. I don't really know what else is there that I should see, but that seems like a pretty awesome thing. And I started talking to her a little bit more, figuring out, you know, what her plans were for that leg of the trip, and it sounded awesome. Like the rough idea she had for, you know, where we would be going, it sounded awesome. So within one phone call, I said, I'm in. And I immediately, like after that phone call, booked my first flight to go to Cairo, Egypt. Like I didn't book any return flights. I just booked that first flight there because I wanted to make sure that trip was going to happen. Now, with that being said, that ended up not being the flight I took because it was a flight that was going from like Washington, D.C. to Dubai to Cairo for like 20 plus hours. And while I figured that's how long it would take, after I did a little bit more research, I saw there's a flight that leaves Washington Dulles and goes straight to Cairo or in Egypt there, and it was only like 10 hours and the price was the same. So I booked both flights, and I figured I would figure out what to do with the other flight because 10 plus hours on an airplane, it just wasn't really worth it. And so I ended up booking a flight with Egypt Air to go to Cairo. In the beginning of December, there were also some other very major personal things that changed in my life in December. And while I'm not going to go into the details of it, it definitely was something that almost made me hesitate on this trip. And then something inside me said, you know what? No. You said you're going to do this, and I don't care what else is going on in life. This is happening, and to this day, I'm still thankful above and beyond that I made that decision. So preparing for a trip to Egypt, I had packed obviously clothes that would involve being hot, being sweaty. I try not to overpack because I saw that some of the flights we were taking, because we were going to a lot of different countries on this trip, some of the flights we were taking had smaller than international size baggage and like weight limits. It was kind of wild. So I tried to pack very minimally. So I tried to pack very minimally for most of my stuff, while at the same time having everything I needed in case I couldn't do laundry, because I was going to be gone for about 14 days. As for all the camera equipment, I again tried to pack very, very minimally because mainly I was planning on just doing vlog stuff as well as landscape photography stuff, if anything, because my main point in this trip was that it wasn't going to be a work trip. I wasn't going to be crazy photographer. I wanted to take at least a few great photos, but my goal was not to go hardcore photographer and miss the experience by trying to take a photo. So the camera I took on this trip was actually the one I'm filming with right now. I took the Canon EOS R, and I took, I forget which lenses I took. I got to look at the footage to see what that was, but I think I had like the Sigma 14 to 35. I did take the 70 to 200. I think I took the 100 millimeter and maybe my 24 to 70 lens. I put a lot of gear, including my laptop and hard drives and stuff like that, in that Shimoda bag that I've already made a video about. So even before I boarded my flight, I was a little bit nervous about how the flight was going to be, because I've heard from some people that Egypt Air was going to suck. I've heard from some people that it was fine. Overall, I enjoyed my experience with Egypt Air. The seats on the plane were comfortable, they were spacious, they gave us these little bags that had like goodies and earbuds and eye covers, which I actually still have. It was pretty cool seeing the plane because they had this automatic tinting glass. You could see the airplane flying over. You could see like the point of view from the front and the rear of the plane. It was pretty cool. I liked the technology, and overall, it was a good flight. My first seat, the seat that I was assigned, was actually a middle seat, which was kind of scary because I'm a big guy. It's not something I look forward to, being 10 hours in a middle seat. However, there was a family sitting next to me who asked if I could slide over one seat, and then they asked if I could just move to the front because they had like a small child, which was a little bit awkward when somebody kind of says, "Hey, could you move?" I'm like, "Oh, excuse me," because I had already put my bag above and they want me to move in front of the plane. And let's do the math real quick. If I'm sitting in the middle of the plane and then I have to go to the front of the plane, but my bag is in the middle of the plane, that means when we get off the plane, I have to wait for everybody to get off the plane so I can go back to get my bag to get off the plane. But with that being said, it's all good. I was happy to help the family. That child screamed the entire flight, so I'm glad I was nowhere near that. And I watched movies and did some editing on my way to Egypt, and again, it was a great flight. So when I arrived in Cairo, Egypt, it was definitely a unique experience. I don't want to say the airport smelled, because that's very, very American to say, oh, the airport smelled or whatever. But it definitely was a unique smell. I think it was just smoke that I was smelling, because I don't know whether you could smoke inside there or if I was near the smoking section. But there was a strong smoke smell that was definitely something that was a little bit nauseating for me. The first thing I did when I got there was I went and I had already read and asked the people on the plane about getting the SIM card. So I kept my phone and I just changed out the SIM card, and they had several booths right there. And I forget which company I used to for the SIM card. I think it was Orange or something like that. I got that, and I switched my phone over. I still don't fully understand how the whole SIM card and the phone works, because whether it changed your phone number, whether I missed a whole bunch of calls during that trip, I don't really know. But anyway, I switched out my phone card, and then I went out to get a ride to the hotel. This is when I first started to experience how the Egyptians, well, not all of them, the taxi Egyptians were. They were very aggressive. So I had already contacted the hotel who was supposed to have a shuttle to pick me up. They offered it for free. I was going to take them up on it. For whatever reason, I couldn't get in contact with my shuttle driver, and they basically said just to get a cab or whatever. And I was just like, you know what, whatever. But the taxi cab drivers, while I was standing there, it was about 20 to 40 minutes while I was waiting for the shuttle, they just kept on hounding me in the most aggressive way possible for one of their rides. I was just like, no, 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 no. So after the hotel shuttle didn't work out, I was like, look, I am not going to these guys because they are way too intense, and I just don't like how they were approaching me earlier. Not that I was afraid, but more like, I just don't like your attitude. So I pulled my phone out, and Uber's available there, so I took an Uber to the hotel. I was personally shocked that Uber was available in all these countries, because I didn't know. I didn't know it was available kind of everywhere. Well, it's not available in this town I live in, go figure, but it's available in a lot of these countries that aren't, like, I don't want to say major. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. So my driver picked me up, no problem. We threw my bags in the back of the cab, and we went towards my hotel, which was a Great Pyramid Inn, which is almost like right across the street from the Great Pyramids. Like, it's right across the street from where they do the nighttime laser show or whatever, which is actually very eerie to listen to, because just the tone, and it's in Egyptian, and it's like the music's in like a minor key. It sounds really eerie, the night show for the Great Pyramids. I don't know what they were saying. If I had the earbuds, I probably would know what they said, but it just sounded eerie, and I could hear it from my room. But aside from that, let's just say the hotel was great. When I got to the hotel, it was kind of unique because it doesn't stand out. It wasn't like, okay, Hampton or Hilton or Marriott or anything. It's just like, okay, here it goes. Please be clean, please be safe. And it was. I walked in there, it was very clean. They welcomed me, they showed me to my room. Yes, the technology in the rooms wasn't kind of like the modern hotels I stay here in the States, but it wasn't something that I felt like, okay, I don't know how I'm gonna deal with this, or I'm gonna have to really adjust my comfort level for this. No, the bed was comfortable. It had, AC, things were clean. It was good. I had no problem with it. So the game plan was I was gonna just wait at the hotel and meet my travel mate, because I was gonna arrive there about 6 hours prior to her arrival. So I met her at the front desk, and she went up, freshened up, put her stuff down, and then we went out and did our first little walk around the outside of the perimeter for the Great Pyramids. So one of the things I'm going to mention again is the vendors who deal with the tourists. They are very, very pushy and very aggressive, like sometimes too aggressive, like to the point where it's like they'll ask for a tip, you might tip them, and then they will literally say, this isn't enough, this isn't good enough, and it's like, okay, well, back up, sorry. And fortunately, my stance is a pretty big one, so if I kind of give that attitude back, they kind of leave you alone. So after my travel mate, her name's Rose, by the way, might as well give her a name for the sake of this entire story I'm about to edit. Well, I'm not going to edit. Thanks again, Kath. Once she got ready, we went ahead and went back down to the front desk, because they kind of go over like an orientation to the hotel and let you know what is included. They offered free tea and this juice thing that they did up top, and it's also kind of a sales thing where they're trying to get you to buy one of their tour packages. We didn't buy any tour package at that moment, but we enjoyed the views of the Great Pyramids, which we could see perfectly from my hotel room. And then we went out and went to find some food. And then so we had our first Egyptian meal after our orientation, and after our meal we decided to go out and try to see if we could see the sunset of the Great Pyramids, because our main plan was to see the Great Pyramids the next day, not like do a lot of it on day one, because it was a travel day. So we went out and we were approached by a number of different vendors who wanted to offer us the horse carriage, the camels, and all that stuff like that to see the Great Pyramids. And we were like, no, we're just gonna walk. I still to this day don't know whether this is the truth or not, but they said you're not allowed to go in there unless you're with a tour guide. Again, I don't know whether this is the truth or not, but it was late, the sun was setting, so I just said, well, I didn't say it, we just came to the conclusion that, all right, fine, we'll take the horse carriage that he was offering, and they took us the side way, like, if the Great Pyramids are here, they took us over this way, so we would be able to see the Great Pyramids from a distance for a sunset shot. And so the journey to that side entrance to the gate was kind of, it took me through a neighborhood that was a little bit sketchy. It was just one of those, like, you're looking around, it's like, oh, this is definitely different. But it wasn't anything that I felt any type of fear or nervousness or concern for my well-being. I was always situationally aware, just because that's kind of just the type of person I am. But it's nothing that I was directly like clenching my bag, like in fear of that. So we went into the desert. The horse ride was fun. The one thing about the horse ride that was kind of discouraging, that I really didn't like at all, was we started going up a hill, and I don't know whether the horse was tired or whatever, he was struggling to go up the hill, to the point where Rose and I actually said, hey, can we just please stop and we'll just walk to the top of the hill, take the photos or whatever, then we'll go back, because we just didn't want to keep pushing the horse like up the hill. Like, I don't know what that horse's life has been like, and I honestly didn't want to do it just because I am more concerned about, the well-being of the animal and stuff like that. So we walked the rest of the way, took some photos. It was really, really great to see the pyramids. I actually got this really cool shot of somebody on a camel off in the distance, kind of with the sunset behind him. It was really, really cool. So after we got back from our sunset at the pyramids, we went back to the hotel, had dinner, enjoyed the pyramids from the hotel, which you can see clear as day at nighttime. It looked really cool, and caught a glimpse a little bit of the night show, which it wasn't that thrilling. I wouldn't really recommend it. Like, I'm glad we didn't pay for it. We were just basically looking over the gate from the hotel, just because it just didn't seem that cool from where I was at least, you know, whatever. And then Rose went to bed, and then since I was wide awake, I decided just to go for a little walk around the neighborhood, because I just saw a bit of the neighborhood from the horse carriage, so I kind of knew where I was and where things were in the neighborhood. So I just took a little walk, because one of the really cool things about just my personal experience in Egypt is when I put the camera bag down, when I'm not with Rose, I can blend in on the streets of Egypt with no problem. Like, as long as I'm not wearing, like, let's just say my 5'11" tactical looking pants and kind of, let's just say tourist, American, traveler, whatever. When I'm not dressed that way, I blend in seamlessly with the other Egyptians, to the point that many people over there kept on assuming I was Egyptian. Which also made me decide to sign up for 23andMe when I got back to the States, because I wanted to find out if I was Egyptian. Spoiler, I'm not. I have no Egyptian heritage in my DNA whatsoever. So that's just day one of this trip, and from the moment I put my feet on the Egyptian soil, I was just blown away that I did it. Like, one of the most memorable parts of that trip that was like a big celebration for me was when I finally landed in Egypt. I kept everything quiet on social media. I didn't tell anybody where I was going except for some of my close family, just so somebody knew where I was in the world. And when I got to the hotel by myself, I did a TikTok video, this one right here. When I did that video, that was like a huge victory celebration. I couldn't believe it. I'm looking at a wonder of the world. I'm looking at the Great Pyramids, and I traveled here by myself. And then the other part that was just fantastic was I knew I was about to have company, a great friend to experience the rest of this trip with, and just everything we put together just made that entire trip just perfect, in my opinion. That's what I can say, perfect. I have never experienced a trip that was so much of a joy and a fantastic experience, but you will see more of that in the future videos. But anyway, this was day one of my trip to Africa. See ya.